series. I am Dr. Pullins, and I am here to open us up on tonight. We have had several nights of various topics through the summer health series, and as we moved out of June, we come to July and talk about some more things that not necessarily related to our physical health. There's a statement John F. Kennedy said years ago. He said that the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. And so we're here to give you tips and hints that you can have a more proactive approach to life rather than a reactive approach to life. And so some of the things that we talk about, you will suffer losses, you will suffer hurts, you will have health challenges. The things that we talk about today may not affect you right now, but there's a high chance that it will at some point in time. So really take these to heart because you never know when you're going to need them. Life comes. From various destinations throughout the city on today. God, we just pray for your strength. We pray for your comfort, God. God, even those who are suffering now from different ailments, from losses, God. God, you know all the different situations, all the needs. We ask that you would show yourself strong in each situation. We pray for the message that will come on tonight about preparing for a future that would leave something hereditary for our children, God, that we wouldn't be a burden, God, but we'd be a help to those that we leave behind and that we would be able to leave a legacy. We ask you to touch the speakers and give them understanding, God, give them the words that need to be spoken on tonight. We pray for those here in the house and those who are out in media land. We just thank you for all that you do and that you're going to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you once again, Dr. Pullins. First, I'd like to say thank you to our wonderful speaker who I had an opportunity to learn so much about throughout the weeks. So I appreciate you attending our Summer Health Series. When Steve and Stephanie founded Fullerton Financial Planning in 2004, the word community was one of the integral pieces in their inner workings of the foundation of their business. Giving back to the kingdom was the second, hence Fullerton Financial Planning, which created Kingdom Financial, a registered investment advisor. With a culmination of the two, Steve and Stephanie Fullerton founded Fullerton Financial Planning in Phoenix, Arizona, with one of the common goals, and that was to help their clients achieve financial confidence. Whether you're planning for an already living situation or your retirement, there's a lot that goes on into solidifying a written retirement plan. From crafting a budget, managing your money, to last a lifetime, to creating a goal. This is very important to recognize the identity and focus of what you want. It's crucial to understand the many variables that make your retirement years. Fullerton Financial value relationship building, which is the same thing that we do here at Antioch. They also value their clients. They want to know about you, your family, your goals, your dreams. The more they get to know about you, the easier their job becomes. By taking a holistic approach, they build your retirement plan around these objectives while focusing on addressing the longevity of your accounts. They create an individualized retirement roadmap for each and every one of their clients because no two retirements are the same. And so with that information and that introduction, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my new friend, Mrs. Stephanie Fullerton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. So thank you. I am just so excited to be here tonight and to have the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do for the community, what we do for clients. And as you mentioned, we started this business 20 years ago.
Wow.
In the trunk of my car with my mother.
Whoa.
Yes, I actually was in full-time ministry. I was a pastor at a local church here, and the Lord told me that it was time for me to resign, and I didn't know what that meant. Like, how do you resign from ministry when you've been called to ministry? And I boldly listened to the Father when he told me it was time to go into the marketplace. At that time, 20 years ago, you didn't know what marketplace meant. I thought grocery shopping. Like, what do you mean you're taking me to the marketplace? And it was very interesting because in a very short period of time, I found myself in this industry and literally being downloaded by the Lord. And the story is amazing, but it's all been founded on kingdom principles.
Praise God.
And being obedient to his voice and obedient to the giving of tithes and offering. And from there, the Lord has been so faithful to build a company that was beyond our imagination. So I hope that over the next 30 minutes, I can pour into you 20 years of experience, which is impossible. But with God, all things are possible, right? So I pray that I can have clarity over the next 30 minutes to download what would be essential for you to hear tonight. And then we'll open up for questions. And I will answer whatever I can, and what I can get back to you if I don't have it. So I would love for everyone to take home tonight. I brought the latest book that my husband and I just released this last year. It's called Financial Literacy. And it is just a guide to just financial terms. You know, when I sit down with people and I say the word RMD or IRA or, you know, I know what I mean, but they look at you like you're talking Greek or foreign. It's like when you walk into a church and you say, you have a seat in our pew. Well, if you're not talking to a believer, they're like, a pew what? Yeah. You know, we know what we meant. So please, when you leave tonight, make sure you take it. It is complimentary, is for you. My gift to you and my husband. My husband's a retired police officer.
Okay.
And so he retired. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. He retired 15 years ago, joined me in the business, and so here we are. So I'm going to talk a little bit, and then we'll throw it to some questions. How's that sound?
That sounds wonderful, Stephanie. And I think just because you said this is a gift, I actually glanced at it earlier. This is an awesome book. Yeah. So for those of you all who are in virtual land, I don't think we're going to be saving any for you. That's why you should be here. So this is awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
And those that are watching virtually,
okay.
You let me know. You send me an email, and we will get one to you.
Okay, she's nicer than I.
Yes.
Try to get people out here. Awesome.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. You know, a radio show, been doing radio for over 13 years. You can listen to my show on Saturdays. My husband and I host a financial TV show. Everybody's in church, hopefully, when we're on live. Yeah, but, you know, on Saturdays sometimes when football, I don't know why the Cardinals think they're better than my financial show, but I get kicked off sometimes. So perhaps on Saturdays you can find that. But here's just some of our outlets. What I want to talk about tonight is when we do financial planning, and as you're thinking about financial planning, there's really 5 areas that we should all be focusing on. And that is whether you're, nearing retirement, maybe you have retired, maybe you're far from retirement. Everybody's different in this room tonight. But even at that, there's 5 things that really you should be thinking about. And number 1 is income planning. Number 2 is tax planning. Number 3 is healthcare planning. Risk management. How should you be in the market? Should you be in the market? If you're in the market, what type of volatility do you need? And then estate planning. And I do believe that Cindy has visited with you, one of our paralegals in our company. She did a event here, I guess at a retreat or here. Marvelous lady that does incredible work. But so what we look at is at a very holistic approach. I don't come here this evening with a magic bullet. I can't tell you put all your money here and everything's going to be fine, because that's not the way that it is. Yet when people come into our office, it's amazing. Probably 70%, 80% of people have all their money in one bucket. Maybe it's a 401k, maybe it's a checking account, or maybe it's a stock or a mutual fund. And really, true planning is about diversification and having different areas to address different times in your life as you face them. So I want to touch on income planning just a little bit. I've got a slide up here that talks about we're living longer. The average age of a female is 90. The average age of a male is 85. In fact, I do a women's seminar that I do a workshop teaching women on how to manage money and things that I believe are important to know. And I did a study that was pretty interesting because they said in the study that 80% of men will die with a companion. Yet 80% of women will die be single, widowed, or divorced. So super important that you plan for longevity. It used to be you retired. In fact, when Social Security was created, the average mortality table was like 65. You couldn't take Social Security until 67. Did you hear what I just said? Yeah. So the government,
that make sense.
Yeah, the government was not even planning on us living past our mortality tables. Yet now our mortality table's 85 to 90, and you can take Social Security at 62. So the reason why you hear things of Social Security is going to run out, or we're dipping into the trust fund, it's because they never intended for us to use it the way people are using it. It was never intended to be a sole source of retirement. About 40% of your Social Security really should be dependent on retirement. So when you're looking ahead down the road, again, wherever you're at, it used to be, we call it the three-legged stool. You would take your Social Security, pensions, very common, not anymore. Now, what they did is they took pensions, did away with them, the majority, but replaced them with 401ks. They're leaving it up to you, to me, to us, to understand how to manage a 401k and guarantee that it's going to last your lifetime. Because that's what a pension used to do. So 401ks become an important part of retirement planning. So you used to be able to take your Social Security, get a pension, live on your savings, get a great interest rate, and that was your income strategy. And it's no longer that way. So that's why retirement planning and legacy planning has become a lot different, a lot more complicated. It's not just easy as pushing a button anymore. It takes time and resources to begin to plan out for that. I often will make this comment that without retirement, without an income plan, there is not retirement. So let me encourage you here. Again, it doesn't matter your age. You might be sitting here and saying, I got a lot of time before I get there. I don't need to worry about it. Or you might be saying here, well, I'm already retired. It's too late. It's never too early, and it's never too late. And I have always said from the very beginning, we are not a firm that says you have to have X amount of dollars to come in, to sit down and talk to us. We will talk to anybody. Doesn't mean we can help everybody, but we will talk to anybody and at least give them what we believe is good, sound advice and direction. Another part of planning is tax planning. A lot of people are unaware that come 2025, which is not very far away, that our taxes are changing rapidly. It's called the sunset clause. And so what happened back in 2017, the Trump administration reduced taxes and increased our tax brackets, meaning you could earn more and pay less in taxes. But the only way that Congress would pass this and agree to it is if in 2025 we would go back to the previous tax codes, which say this: increased tax rates, average tax rate is going up 4%, and decreased brackets. So that means that you could earn the same amount of money that you're earning today, and in 18 months be paying 4 to 6 to 8% more in taxes if Congress doesn't change it. So I've got my own opinions about that.
I was going to say, you shared a lot. I don't see anyone out here with their calculators. That is a lot of information. So we're trying to figure that out. So I'm hoping you'll be able to give us an example of what you're referring to.
Yeah, I got an example. In fact, I didn't pass them out, but we do have some pamphlets back there. If you want one just to take some notes, grab them. Just raise your hand. I don't want you to feel like you need to take one. You don't need to fill out anything, but it's just got like some note taking in there and a little bit about our company. But to your point, let me give you some examples.
Yeah.
Okay. First example that I want to give to you is these are actual clients of ours, and I can tell you their names are not Bob and Mary. I changed all names so no one
protect the innocent.
To protect the innocent, right? And the privacy of our clients. Bob and Mary, they came to me about 5 years ago. They had retired at age 60. In fact, their retirement is pretty good. They get their Social Security. Bob was fortunate enough that he has a pension, and he also now, because he's not 60 anymore, he's in his 70s, he has taken what's called a RMD. That's a required minimum distribution. That is a requirement that IRS says to you, if you've put money into a 401k, anything that you've never yet paid taxes on, right now at 73, they make you pay taxes. So pay taxes meaning they make you take out a minimum distribution and you have to pay taxes. So a lot of people will tell me, well, I'm not concerned because when I go into retirement, I'm not going to have as much income. Well, I will always ask this question. So does that mean you're going to do less in retirement? Are you going to eat less? Are you going to travel less? Are you not going to go out? Are you going to... And they always say just what you're saying, no. Yeah. They go, in fact, we have a bucket list. We want to travel.
They're probably going to do more.
They are going to do more. In fact, my retirees are busier than they were when they worked. Like when they worked, I had no problem getting them into an office for a review. They retire, I have to twist their arm and schedule it 6 months ahead. So do not fall into that theory of I'm going to spend less in retirement. In fact, you're going to spend probably at least the same amount and over time more because of inflation. Understand, inflation is real. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But I want to show you an example here. So in this example, Bob and Mary, they receive about $7,000 a month in income. Right now, they're married, so they file jointly, and they're in a 12% tax bracket. Now, first example that I'm going to show you is what I believe is one of the biggest lack of planning that they did in this portfolio. When they retired at 60, their advisor at the time, all of their money outside of their pension was in accounts that they had not yet paid tax on. So 90% of their portfolio was in money that they have to pay taxes on. So what that means is that they are required now to take $40,000 a year off of their 401k IRA. They have to pay taxes on that. That's never going to go down. It's only going to go up because the older you get, the more aggressive Uncle Sam gets on you taking it. Now remember, they're going to spend the same. Their advisor told them that not to worry about taxes. Now that they're retired, they're not going to make as much. Well, I actually take a different approach on that because I believe that any time that you can have a conversation about doing a conversion, what I mean by that, I'm going to talk about a Roth. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, please hear my heart on this. A Roth is one of what I believe a magic bullet. It is a very valuable tool in your portfolio. If you have a 401k and you can max out the Roth inside of the 401k, I would encourage you to max it out. The reason why most companies will not talk about this is because they don't get a tax credit if you put into a Roth. So they, as a company, lose that benefit of writing it off, okay? A lot of companies will match 2, 3, 4%, some higher than that, but the average is about 4%. They will not match Roth money. So in that case, you match pre-tax dollars to whatever that matches. Let's say it's 4%. Your first 4%, do pre-tax. But then the remaining, because you can do up to $18,000 and up to $28,000 depending on your age, the remaining put it into the Roth. Your tax person will tell you, but you're not getting the tax credit this year. I'm okay with that. I'd rather you pay taxes today versus not knowing what we're going to be paying tomorrow. We have an incredible debt tragedy in our company. Trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. It's going to have to be paid back somehow. And I will tell you, there's only this much of the wealthy. It's the middle class that will end up paying the brunt of these taxes. So you have to be reminded of that. Again, I'm not telling you that it's right for everybody in here, but what I'm telling you what is right is the conversation, okay? Because look what happens. First thing that I'm going to show you is the what if. Let's say Mary becomes a widow. Or Bob, but one of them becomes a widow. Social Security goes away. You get to keep the highest amount. So whoever has the biggest amount of Social Security, those are the dollars that you get to keep. There's a formula. They make it complicated to understand, but let me make it easy. Whatever is the highest Social Security, that's what you get to keep. Okay? In this case, Bob has a pension that, fortunately enough, passes on 100%. That's not normal. It typically goes in half or goes away. His wife will still have to take out the required minimum distributions. The amount does not get smaller, it gets larger. And what's interesting, even with those figures, Mary's income is not going to change that much. In fact, it will be $7,000 a month, that's about what it was when they were married. But here's what's interesting. Because she is now filing single, because she's widowed, her tax rate goes from 12% to 22%. And if that advisor would have just simply converted those IRAs when they retired and taken care of it, because once that conversion is made, it then grows tax-free.
So instead of her paying then, she's now paying, like you said, tomorrow
Now.
she's paying now.
And she goes from a 12 to a 22. I have these charts, I think, in your pamphlet, and if not, we can get them to you. What these charts show you, and this was your example that you were asking, here is where our rates are right now. Here is where they're going in 2025. So if you'll note, the brackets, if you look at the 12% right now, goes to 94,000, just looking at joint. Go over, it's going up to 15%, but the cutoff is 75,000. Do you see what I'm saying? So you could make 94,000 and actually go from a 12% bracket to a 25% bracket next year. Do you see? Mm-hmm. Just follow my chart. So this is a very important subject. Again, I need to disclose. I am not telling you to go out and do this. I'm advising you to go get a consultation to see what's right for you. And it doesn't matter if you got a little or a lot. This is a very important part of your planning. I like to say it like this. When you do a Roth, now, okay, big confusion. A A lot of people get confused of what is a Roth conversion to a Roth contribution. A Roth contribution says you have to be working and you can give X amount of dollars a year to it. But you have to be working, and if you make too much money, you can't do it, which is crazy, but that's how it's written. A Roth conversion says that you've already have a 401k, an IRA, money that you've not yet paid taxes on. Doesn't matter if you're working or not, but you can take that money, convert it, pay the taxes today, get it out of the way, and then it begins to grow tax-free. So if I was to say to you, I'm going to charge you taxes on your crop, do you want to pay taxes on the seed, or do you want to wait until it grows and I'll tax you on the growth? Which would you want me to tax you on?
That's a good quiz question, so hold on. On the seed, because I want to pay
less
than.
taxes.
Yeah.
So the sooner you can pay the taxes, the better, because then the harvest becomes tax-free. Okay? So this is why I like this slide, and it for me, I'm very simple. I like things laid out easy. And so something like this gives me the yeah, I'd rather pay it on the seed. That's why I tell you, like if you can, inside your 401k, put your money into a Roth, do it. The company doesn't want you to know that because they don't want to lose the tax credit. Okay? I'm going to skip over these slides.
I'd like to say something else.
Yeah.
I think not only the company not only want to lose the tax credit, but isn't it people who's concerned of spending money now? They want to be able to, or not spending money now. They don't want to pay on that tax so they can actually utilize those funds as opposed to even thinking about the future.
Yeah, that, and then the other thing is the tax, and I'm all about CPAs, and I love them. In fact, we have a CPA now. But their goal is to help you reduce your taxes today. They're looking, how could I save you taxes in 2024? Okay, they're not looking on how can I save you taxes in 25 and 26 and 27. So they are really focused on, show me your deductions, tell me what you paid, and then I'll tell you what you owe. And if you would have contributed more to your 401k, we could have taken a little bit more off. So they're more focused on the harvest than they are the seed.
Right, and that's in your case, you were the reverse.
I'm the reverse, yeah. Let's talk just real quick a little bit about inflation. I don't think I have to tell you what inflation is. We all feel it. We go to the grocery store, we're paying more, we're doing less. I did a webinar on inflation a few weeks ago, and I was just doing some study research before I went to do my webinar, and it was interesting because one of the studies that I was reading stated that more people now are going without meals than ever before because they can't afford the groceries. So inflation, I call it the silent killer. Like we don't realize it's happening until it's happened. These are just some price comparisons. I just did this recently. Back in 2020, these groceries, just staples, eggs, bread, chicken, milk, $12.61. Today, you go out and buy the same thing, same size, $15.96. That's over a 30% increase. The problem is, and I think we all know this, but the problem is this. I remember during COVID, going out to a restaurant after we had gotten through, they started opening up restaurants again. And I remember local restaurants by my house having a sign out, due to inventory, and we have adjusted our menus up 25%. Okay, now I understood that because of the time and the season that we were in, but the issue is this: they're never going to come back and reduce those 25%. They're there to stay. So again, how are you addressing it? How are you preparing for inflation? Because if your expenses today, let's say your monthly expenses are I don't know, let's say $5,000. I don't know if that's high or low, but let's say it's $5,000. Do you realize that in 10 years, just with normal inflation, that's going to be $7,500? And in 20 years, it's going to be $10,000? And let me remind you, that is not adding on anything. A new tire, a new car, a roof, air condition, clothes. It's just normal inflation. So every portfolio needs to be addressing it. Healthcare. Oh boy, this is a huge subject in itself. I get asked all the time about long-term care. Like, should I have long-term care insurance? And the reality is, if I was to take 50% of us in this room tonight, 50% of us are going to need long-term care of some type. Nursing home or in-home care. The old method of providing for health care would have been go out and buy a long-term care policy, pay premiums. If you don't use it, you lose it. And unfortunately, one of the little dark secrets that these long-term companies don't share with you in the fine print, it's there, that at certain trigger points, certain ages, they will begin to increase your premiums quite a bit. And I'm talking not like 2, 3, 4%. I'm talking 10, 15, 20. I've seen it 30%. So I am not a big fan of long-term care insurance. It's kind of like I'm not a fan of car insurance, but I have it. Because if I get in an accident, I want it. If there was a different choice for me to make in car insurance, I certainly would look at it, but there's not. But in long-term care, there are other options that you're not being told about. Options of, if you want the traditional long-term care insurance, where if you need it, there's a monthly payment or money to supplement it, but use something that's going to have a benefit to it, meaning if you don't use it, you can pass it on to your legacy, to your children, to your estate. There's investments out there. Brokers aren't going to talk to you about this. Why? Because they don't get paid to talk to you about this. Understand, brokers get paid to buy, sell, and recommend. That's how they get paid. They don't get paid to put you outside of the market. So when you work with a broker, 99% of your money will be in the market. You can sit down with me and you can show me your statement and I can tell you what type of person that you work for. They are not true fiduciaries. Okay? They will tell you they're fiduciaries, but they're not true fiduciaries. So there's a lot of different solutions out there that you can use for long-term care. And important because, folks, I don't know if you've experienced it. I have with my own grandmother. Medicaid spend down is real. You go into a nursing home and you do not have the money to pay for it. They're going to put you through a spend down. They're going to spend all your assets before they begin to assist you with any supplement dollars to take care of you. They will take care of you, but you're going to have to give them all your money first. So Medicaid planning, we do Medicaid planning. We do, I call it hybrid planning for long-term care insurance, because I'm a believer that everybody should have it, but I don't believe that everybody should have the traditional kind. So long-term care, and I can answer questions with that in a few minutes. And then the last thing that I'll talk about, and then I'll open it up for questions, is carrying unnecessary risk in the stock market. This is a whole night's discussion on the stock market. And so what we do at Fullerton is we do risk management. We're not about chasing the market. I would much rather guarantee that you will never be poor than to risk your money to try to get you rich. And understand what I just said. To take your money to risk it to try to get you richer is very dangerous.
It's a gamble.
It is a gamble. It is an emotional gamble. Because when it's good, it is good. And when it's bad, it is bad. So at Fullerton, we take time to understand proportionally how much you should have in the market, at what risk level. Again, I'm not going to take and put you in incredible risk, because again, my job is not to risk to get you richer, but to guarantee that you'll never be poor. And that is a lot of people will say, but I want my money to grow. I want your money to grow too. But I want it to grow at a place where we know. I'd rather you know that when you get to that point, whatever that point is, because it's different in this room. Everybody has different goals. But I want you to know when you get to that point that you are ready to be able to retire. And when it comes to retirement, you can quote me on this all day long. When it comes to retirement, I truly believe that when it comes to your income streams, because remember I started out, there's no retirement without income. As much as you possibly can, it needs to be contractually guaranteed. So super important on the risk management. And then finally, the last thing that I was going to tap on a little bit, and I'll just kind of go through these couple slides here, is here's what I believe your goal should be, whether it's doing it yourself, whether it's working with a firm like ours, or even if you might say, but I have an investor and I love them, that's great. But their goals should always be this, that things are kept simple, that it provides you stability, and it gives you security. So, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
Going back, let's go back to that previous slide. I love those three words you pointed out, simplicity. Simplicity should also include the terminology. So one of the things I really appreciated with Stephanie is that not only did she talk, but she broke down some of the information that we needed to know. If you all remember in the beginning, I actually said, well, can you give us an example? Because it's quite a bit of information that you're sharing. And immediately she went to that slide and actually gave an example. So thank you. I think what's important is not only the fact that I love just reading about you and also hearing from some of my colleagues and church members about how wonderful your firm is. I think also the fact that you sit down, you and your firm break the information down, make it simple, allow them to understand, tailor it. If you all heard the introduction, she makes it where it's individualized so you can understand what you're sharing. Again, being a Christian, I think is awesome. Also, confidentiality in the healthcare field, we focus on that. So just having that confidentiality and allowing the individuals to be very comfortable when you're speaking to them. Stability, I think that's what everyone's looking for, especially when they're looking at their life. One of the things that we focus on, and I love what you said, is that, the way you live now is the way you want to live when you retire. You don't want to live anymore, and oftentimes we look at our vacationing and we vacation more, but how can we vacation in a way in which we've made the money in that way? Right. And we also do not wish to live less. So keeping that stable life is very important. And then security. And for most of us, security can also not only involve us as an individual or our spouse, but it also involves our family. So when we talk about our family and our legacy, we also focus on, am I leaving something to make sure that my family's comfortable? And more importantly, with using you, and again, I'm just throwing it out there, am I leaving something to make sure my family is comfortable and they know when I leave them something, how to manage their funds? Yeah. So I'm just looking at those three goals. I know you clicked it immediately, and I think that pretty much sums up a lot of the information that you shared. So again, if you have additional information on what I just stated, that's great, and then we'll take it out to our questions.
The number one concern, hands down, is am I going to be okay? That's number one concern. Number two that I hear, especially married, something happens to me, will my spouse be okay? People don't come in and ask me, how much money can you make me? Right. What's your best return? What's your best stock? Am I going to be okay? Yeah. And that's really what we focus on, and that's where that stability comes. And the simplicity really is about making sure that the plan is easy. It's interesting because probably 75%, maybe even greater than that, people don't have a written plan. Like they don't know what it looks like. And when we sit down and we put a plan together and we simplify it, that's where the security comes in.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm gonna get our questions out in the audience if we have any, and also in virtual land, and please prepare them because I know you do. This is an awesome presentation. But I also want to be more specific, and I say that because we are a church, a 90%, I would say, is of color. And I'm going to be just transparent. In our culture, in African American culture, we often say we take care of our own, and our own could be just our own, and our own is within our home, not in our church home, but our home. And oftentimes we do not find out whether our spiritual family needs something because sometimes they may not share it. And so I think this is very important. Again, going back to those 3 words, we have to be very transparent, not just with you, but also others. Sitting down with our family, we don't like to share that information about if something should happen to me, this is what's happening. But it's so important that we do that. And I think our church today know how important that is. So I really appreciate that. So again, if there are any questions in the audience, if you have a situation you want to share, or if you'd like to just kind of ask a question, we'll be more than happy to take those questions.
Stephanie, while they're bringing those questions, thank you. That is an excellent introduction, and I agree. There's so much information. It's hard to pack in a short period of time. One thing you talked about, a buzzword I hear a lot, is fiduciary. And a lot of times people will advertise themselves to get the trust of the client. Can you give a little bit more detail when you say some of them may call themselves fiduciary, but they're not really fiduciaries?
Yeah, great question. There's 2 types of fiduciaries. There's the fiduciary that their responsibility is to do what their broker house tells them to do, meaning they have one little toolbox. They can only sell those certain funds. Perhaps they get paid a deeper commission, a revenue sharing, a kickback. So when they sit down with you, if you can picture this, let's say that your risk is whatever is determined. And in that whatever is determined, there's 2 mutual funds that can be given to you. One mutual fund, they get paid 6% commission. The other mutual fund, they get paid 2% commission. Both mutual funds fit your need. What do you think they're going to be told to sell? The higher one, right? Because it puts more money into their pocket, and that is how their house gets paid. That fiduciary responsibility is to the broker first and then to the client, because what their fiduciary responsibility is to only do what's suitable. My fiduciary responsibility, the way that my license is, legally and morally, is I have to do what's right for the client. So when I utilize ETFs, iShares, bonds, mutual funds, stocks, I don't get paid a commission on those. I get paid a flat fee. So basically, when you make money, I make more money. And when your money goes down, my money goes down. And I have to, whenever I sit in front of you, whenever I am audited by the SEC, I have to be able to prove to them that what I said for you to do is exactly what I would do for myself, my mother, my aunt, my sister. So those are the 2 different types of fiduciaries.
Oh, not so much a question. Just want to say, I appreciate your company. We sat down. We got our evaluation done, and Tyler did, I think, an excellent job on
Good.
giving us a good direction
Yes.
on where to go at this point in time in our lives. So even though we're making new adjustments, we look to get back in there and get those updated as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. I will pass that on to him.
So for those of you all who have the book, and I was just looking at the excerpts in there, one area, I hear this a lot in our church and also in our community, I can't wait to retire. And so, and when they do, I often would ask them 2 questions as a healthcare provider. I say, so have you gotten your health together? Because you don't want to retire and then you're not here. The second question I always say is, do you have your finances together? And so most of them will say, yeah, I do. I went to HR, at my job, and they went over everything with me, and I got my package, my retirement packet, and I'm ready. Is that really what? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask, because once that packet is given to them, I'm ready. I always want to go like a 2-year-old. So you're ready, now what? I mean, what does ready mean? So could you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically I call that, I hope the stock market does great because you'll be fine, but if it doesn't, then what are you going to do? Because understand, what they're saying is that you're ready to retire because you told us that you're going to retire. That's what they're saying. I was sitting with a gentleman today. He's getting ready to retire at the end of July, and he says, yeah, I got all my papers done. I went to HR, and this is what, I get a payout for this vacation, and I get this, and I get that. And he goes, and now what? And so that's where I would step in, and I begin to plan. When you leave a company and you choose to leave your 401k with the company, understand they're really not managing that. You have to tell them what to do. If you want more risk, less risk. If you want it in cash, if you don't want it in cash. And so as long as the market's great, you'll be fine, hopefully. By moving your 401k and letting someone that is a retirement planner begin to put together a plan, now all of a sudden it goes from I hope you're okay to I know you're going to be okay. And that's a big difference.
I like that. I don't know if you all heard that. I hope you're okay. And now that I know you're okay, and I think you know you're okay because I've explained to you why you're okay. That's a good point. Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any questions, even in virtual land? Oh, we have a question in the front. Dr.
I remarried later on in life, second marriage, and so my husband and I, we have a blended family. So therefore, we had to get a will and a trust, and he just passed away in November. So I had to go back and get an amendment on my will and trust, just sign the papers today. But that's an important thing to know. When you have a blended family, you have to set things in order, because if you don't, you're going to have some problems.
Yeah, you got the mine, yours, and ours. And so I'm glad if I can just lean into that for a second. There's wills and there's trust. It's about distribution and directives. You do not want anybody telling you what they think your money should be doing or going to or how to. So a will and a trust are going to distribute the way that you want it to be distributed, and your directives, you don't want anyone making decisions for you that you don't want made. Directives are very important. A will not avoid probate. Understand the difference. A trust does avoid a probate. So one of the things that we are really pretty passionate about at Fullerton is that we like to take, if you've got a will, we like to put it inside of a trust, because we don't want your estate to go through probate courts, because probate courts, if you go through probate courts, it can be quick or it can be a couple years. And so again, whether it's life support or not life support, whether it's a donor or not donor, you want to be the one that's making those decisions. So you want to have those directives. You want to have things on how you want it to be distributed. So super important. I'm glad to hear that you have that.
Quick question. I know you talked about long-term care. Could you explain that more, especially if you have a chronic illness?
Yes. So are you talking about qualifying for long-term care?
That and just
long-term care. So long-term care in itself, again, if you've got it, please don't go home and cancel it because the lady on the stage says she didn't like it. That's not what I'm saying. What the lady on the stage is saying, that long-term care is important because we're most likely, at least 50% in this room today, will need some type of home care, nursing home provision in their lifetime. I'm not saying you will, but I'm saying the statistics show. Long-term care in itself, you do have to qualify. So if you have a chronic illness, it's going to be very hard to qualify because you've got existing situation. However, there's a lot of things out there that we now have at our fingertips that you don't have to qualify for. That you can take current assets And if you never need it, you don't lose it. You can use it for your legacy or for income or lifestyle or just for the what ifs. And you don't have to qualify. But long-term care in itself, it's not that it's bad. It's just that you pay a lot of money, and if you don't use it, that's just was a lot of money that could have gone to your estate. So what a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of options out there, not just the old school method of long-term care insurance. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
I have a question about, you were talking about retirement, but like say for instance, the Arizona State retirement system, do you have to take that money when you get to retirement age, and can I do something else with that money?
Okay. Are you talking about like the 457 inside of the Arizona State retirement system?
Yes.
Okay. Not the pension itself that you would get, not the paycheck, because it's two different things.
Yes.
Okay. So the 457, absolutely. I help people all the time, especially, my husband's retired, at law enforcement, so we had an Arizona State retirement plan. So when he retired, we took his 457, we moved it into an IRA, and then we did planning for our retirement with that. But his pension, the money that he gets monthly, you can't take that in a lump sum. Some pensions you can't, but the state doesn't allow you to do that. But the 457, yes, you can move it, or 401, or 403B, or 403C. There's a lot of different categories out there noted as anything that you've not yet paid taxes on. You absolutely can move it when you retire. Some cases, at 59 and a half, you can move it, even if you're still working.
If something were to happen to me and my kids are on there, do they get my money from my pension?
Oh, from your pension? They
If
get
something
it.
happens to me, what happens to all that money?
The money inside of like the 457, pension goes bye-bye. You need to live long, sister. And spend.
Well, that was a very good question. I don't think many people know that. That's a good question. We have another question in the back.
You could sign, as far as your pension, retire from the state, you can have another person on there split the difference, right? I mean,
Yeah, you get
like your wife,
like a spouse, yes, but not a child. Yeah.
Do we have any?
So, are you married? Okay, well, go get married, then you can pass it on.
I love it. That's a good one. Yes, we have another question.
Stephanie, for our younger folks, knowing what you know now, if you can go back to when you were 20, what would you do at age 20 that maybe you didn't do when you were 20?
If it meant giving $5 a week into a Roth, I would have done that. I would have stretched myself. I would have gone without the coffee. I'll tell you a quick story. When we got married, I was 25-ish, 24, 25-ish. It's a long time. I'm turning 60. I can't remember that part.
Way.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
am.
gosh, you look good.
Yes, in 60 days.
Oh, wow.
I told my husband this year when I went into this year, I said, I'm turning 60. I'm going loud and large.
All right, okay. I love that.
When we got married, my husband was the money saver. He had a 457. As I mentioned, he was a police officer. In every paycheck, he would put $100 a paycheck. That was a lot of money 38 years ago. It's a lot of money now, but it was a lot of money then. And I would whine and complain. Do you know if we had that money, we could save it and get a new couch? Or we could, I had a list. We could do this and we could do that. And I remember going to my dad, and I said, Dad, you need to talk to Steve. You need to tell him we need that money and stop putting it in that thing that he puts at work, like for retirement. And he looked at me, he goes, you need to be quiet. And you need to listen to your husband, and you need to submit to that man. And I'm just like, and I went back home, and I was going to pout about it. finally I realized it was not a battle I was going to win. Yeah. I was not going to win that battle at all. But when he retired, and we got that 457, can I tell you that 457 was instrumental in building Fullerton Financial? Yeah. Very important to the young people in here today. Give up that coffee, or give up that bagel, or whatever toe I need to step on, and put something away, and put it in a Roth, because you will not regret it. And dollar cost averaging. What that means, you put the same amount of money every paycheck or every week. You don't wait until you have it. You put the same in. Because what happens, especially like, let's say you're putting it into like a Vanguard fund. What happens, sometimes you're going to buy high, sometimes you're going to buy low, but you get a nice averaging when you're consistent. And a little bit starts out small, but it becomes bigger and bigger. The compounding effect is huge.
I like that. You know, I'm thinking of when you said that, Stephanie, my grandmother used to say, always pay the Lord, then you pay yourself, then you pay your bills, and whatever's left over, you can have fun. And it's usually never anything left over for me, but I think it's interesting because when people hear that, pay the Lord, pay yourself, they think, pay yourself, I'm going to treat myself. And then that treating is doing the extras or going to shopping or whatever. And that really, that paying yourself was putting something up for yourself. I had a friend of mine years ago, we were growing up together, and I remember we worked at the same restaurant, then we worked different places, and then eventually I did my thing, and she became a teacher, and she always paid herself. And she would do that, you know, the little thing. And I would always go, you know what, that's crazy. You still, you know, why don't you take them? And she said, no, because I feel like I've cheated myself if I didn't pay myself. And my friend is doing very well. And not because of the fact that she was paying herself in various ways. She's an investor too. But she also knew how to save and how to manage her money. I think that whole mechanism pretty much taught her.
If you think about it, if you had $10, and you gave $1 to the Lord, $1 to yourself, that still leaves you $8 to live on. Now compound that, make it 100, make it, but that's how simple it is. And I will tell you, as a testimony, we're known by our testimony. I remember my baby was maybe 6 weeks old. And I was watching a evangelist. His name is Benny Hinn. I don't know if you've ever heard who Benny Hinn is. I was watching him on TV one night. My husband was had midnight shift, and I remember Benny saying on TV that night, he was taking an offering. He goes, listen, in Malachi it talks about if you can't take care of the Lord's house, he can't take care of yours. And then he quoted Malachi 3:8 or whatever it is. Test me, just test me, give me the money and see that I don't bless, that I don't open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing. Doesn't say blessings. It says a blessing so great that you cannot contain it, that you will not be able to hold in your storehouse. And remember my husband coming home the next morning. I said, honey, I was listening to Benny Hinn, and from now on, when we get paid, the first check, this is back when you used to write the check, You had the checkbook and the check balance. Yeah. Young people don't know what that is, but we do, right? And I said, that first check, we're going to do 10% off of the gross. Not the net, the gross. Now, I'm not here preaching saying do gross or net. I'm saying for me, the Lord said gross. Yeah. So we did it. And now I'm going to tell you that was 35 years ago. I'm here to tell you, not one day since that day has there not been a need not met in my life.
Praise God. Praise God. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I think that's awesome. Thank you so much. So I don't know if we do have another question. I was going to say this is
we have an online question.
Excellent.
I think an in-house question. question?
Absolutely. We have time.
2 questions.
Yes, excellent.
I'll just give them both so we can, for time.
Sure.
The first question is, what's the maximum percent you can contribute to a Roth? And the second, is a Roth better than an IRA? I think Roth is an IRA, but the question is a Roth better than an IRA?
So that is a great question. I get that all the time. A Roth is an IRA. It's just a form of an IRA that says that you pay the taxes now and then it grows tax-free. Contribution to a Roth, depending on your age, can be anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000, but there's caps that they have on it. So you just go on and Google it, Roth contribution. But where the power can really be is if you get the Roth inside of your 401k, because in your 401k, you can give up to $18,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you kind of sized up that small cap.
Yeah, I think I was at Banner, and I did my, looked into the max, and I put it in, and then I went over to ASU, and I said, I want to put the max in. They said, you've already done it at the other job. So you can't do it at both, but it was the total amount. They just said you put in the max. So that's good. And it is good because you never see that.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If this is in a 401k, would it be better if a person was young, so I'm gonna give a scenario, person was young and had discipline, wouldn't it be better to invest with tax deferred, and instead of a Roth, because you would be able to put way more in and get that growth, and then after you approach retirement, then you cash it out and convert it over to a Roth?
Yes. However, let me just say where I want you to get the aha in this is that inside of your 401k, you can contribute up to the $18,000 or $28,000, depending on your age, into pre-tax or Roth. So inside your 401k, you can contribute to the Roth. What you're not getting is the deduction for that year. So it goes back to my question, would you rather pay tax on the seed or the harvest? So almost all companies now allow you inside of your 401k to designate pre-tax or Roth. If you can do, but understand the question you have to ask them, if you've got a match, what will you match? Because most companies will only match pre-tax. They won't match the Roth. But inside of that, you can give up that maximum of $18,000 in it, either pre-tax or Roth. Does that make sense?
Yes, but what I'm asking is, so let's say...
Brother Walker, I don't think we can hear you. Thank you.
So let's say you're getting taxed, of course, weekly, a month, whenever the pay period is. And if you figure out, okay, if I am using a Roth, I have $200 less. And so then you do tax deferred and put that $200 into your 401k and let it grow for, let's say, 20 years. And before retirement, of course, it's going to be tremendously higher than if you would have went directly Roth the entire time, and then you convert it to Roth. Yes, you have to pay taxes, but the harvest would be, I would think, would be far greater.
So here's an easy way for me to answer that. Would you rather pay taxes on the $200, or would you rather pay taxes on the $20,000? Let's say it grew to $20,000.
I would rather pay taxes on what the $200 was time how many years of additional growth in the 401k. And so, yes, I'll pay a lot of taxes, but it would I would think I would come out better because of the growth for those 20 years using the same principle of compound interest,
right,
and that kind of thing.
It's still going to grow inside of that tax-free, just so you know. So that $200 you put in and you're going to still contribute. You're going to put $200 in, or what? Let's use that as our example. You're still putting in that in. The difference is when you put the 200 in, you pay $20 in taxes. It's $180, but it grows tax-free. Versus you put the 200 in and you don't pay the $20, and you let the $200 go to $20,000. Well, you pay taxes now on all of that growth, so your taxes are going to be more. You're still getting the same end game. It's just, do you pay taxes at the end or at the beginning? But the contribution is the same. The same amount that you're putting the same amount of money in the concept is, do you pay the taxes now or later? But you're always going to put the money in the same way.
I like that. Thank you. So you pay taxes on the seed or the
Harvest.
And we talked about the seed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions as we begin to close? So we talked about simplicity, we talked about stability, and we also talked about security. And you made a great point on that. I think, do we have another question?
Yeah, we have one more.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we have one more question. But while we're going towards that question, you talked about those three. And I want everyone to understand, in virtual land and in the audience, when we heard these questions asked, especially the last question, because I'm trying to follow along like, wait a minute, what is he saying? They're all, as she pointed out in her previous part of her presentation, individualized. So you're sitting down with these individuals and you're showing them what they have and you're explaining to make it very simple so that they would understand it. So again, just for point of clarity. That's
Right, because I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes, you are.
We're saying the same thing. It's just the way that I'm explaining it. But I think we're saying the same thing.
So,
one last question.
One more question.
Yes.
Hi, I was just I'm sorry, it's going to be outside the box, but
It's okay.
But it just hit me, and I'll just ask the question. We haven't really been taught as a race to, as far as charitable giving. Can you touch a little bit on that, or how to even get into that? That just was impressed upon my heart just now, so I said, let me just ask you.
So, love charitable giving. I think it's super important. Whether your charitable giving is, the giving of, the tithe, which I believe is not really charity because it's called to obedience. But being able to give back to your community is so important. And, you do get a deduction, not that that's why you give to charity, but you get a deduction, and there's a lot of benefits that way. But I think the greatest benefit when it comes to being able to give to charity is the benefit of what it makes you feel inside. Because there's such a feeling of fulfilling what I think is one of the greatest commandments, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And that when we can love our neighbor by giving and supporting and doing, there is a real, when you lay your head down at night, there's a real peace that comes with that.
Great. I love it. So I want to ask you this very important question. Is your work being done just by you, or do you have a team of individuals?
We have 40 employees.
Really?
3 offices, 40 employees. Our advisory team, I don't know. I think we have 7 or 8. 7 or 8 advisors. We have wealth advisors service team.
So I was thinking about the slide that
Yeah.
had this whole team on it. I
Yes.
think your last slide that
Yes.
says thank you.
Yes.
So you have a phenomenon. So this has not just been done by yourself.
And a dog.
Yes. Look at that.
And
you
a
go.
dog.
There you go. And a dog. I was saying, I thought I heard a dog.
Yeah, that's a dog.
Right. Well, you know what? I'm going to say this as we close. I am hopefully going to see you.
I would love that.
And I would prefer the dog to be my consultant.
Well, I tell you what, we'll see what we can work out.
Okay, thank
Beasley
you.
does come to the office.
Okay, good. That's who I want to see. So without further ado, we again
Thank
want to
you.
thank
God bless you.
Ms. Stephanie, and we're going to have you step down. Be careful. We're going to
Yes.
actually close out.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much.
As we close out our service, let's give her a hand. And again, do not forget, please, our books. These are some awesome books. I was glancing at them, and I think they're awesome. So one of the things I just want to share is we do have our summer health series. It will continue. Next week on Wednesday, we'll be talking about Black trauma. So this is a book that a colleague of mine wrote, and it's awesome. She's Dr. Dawson, who will be speaking more about addressing Black trauma in the Black community, or trauma, excuse me, in the Black community. She has a book called Black Trauma, and there's tons of definitions, meanings, what that means, PTSD, and I've never known any other acronym beyond PTSD, but in this book it talks about various different traumas and how it impacts our race and also ourselves, if you will. And then our ending of this summer health series, as you know, we will be talking about basically our health challenge and focusing on maintaining a healthy life with American Diabetes Association. So without further ado, as we close, we're going to have our very own Elder Smith, who will come up and actually start the closing us out. And I believe we're going to say bye to everyone in virtual land. So thank you for joining us, and we're going to close.